Welcome to the Blue Horizons Project Home Energy Efficiency presentation. This is a monthly coffee chat, and today it's virtual, but in other months, we might even be in person. It's kind of crazy. It's a new time. But we're really grateful y'all could join us today or that you're watching afterward as a recording. This particular presentation is pretty new, so if you have any feedback for us, we would definitely take it. Also, we'll be updating some photos and stuff. So if you're doing this at your house, maybe you could send us some photos and that would make it into a future presentation if you want to be famous. But we're really excited to present this information. It's a basic how-to guide of what's going on in your house and places that you should look for home energy savings. So Blue Horizons Project, setting the course for 100% clean energy in Buncombe County by 2042. It's a partnership between the county, city of Asheville, and Duke Energy. And we just want you to live better, basically use less energy to get the same amount of service at your house, increase comfort, and that way you'll also save some money. So by the end of the workshop, you'll have some action steps you can take as we're presenting. If you're watching the recording later, think about 3 different action steps that you'll take after the presentation. And that can include reaching out to us and setting a home energy chat, or reaching out to a contractor, or stopping Home Depot, following up on education. But basically, there's lots of little things you can do that can add up. And if you can just choose 3 and move forward with those, then it's a good first step. And it's kind of like a gateway to other options. But yeah, this will start at the beginning with the basics. Why do we care about energy efficiency? This boils down to 3 big things, and I'll break it down a little bit more in the presentation. Everyone knows that money is nice to save if you're using less energy, but also one of the big benefits that people don't realize is comfort in your home. Doing energy efficiency in your home can reduce drafts, which actually makes it feel more solid and comfortable and homey to be able to manage the temperature and make sure there's not a breeze flowing through your house. It may also add value to your home. Some surveys have shown 6 to 15% value increase for homes that have an energy efficiency certification or rating. And then also the health aspect of it. When you work on energy efficiency stuff, a lot of times it changes the way that water vapor occurs in your house. Reducing moisture can reduce mold, rot, and increase air quality. So there's these benefits that could happen at home. And of course, the 4th benefit that some people really care about greatly and some not so much, but it helps us all, is environmental health and benefits. By using less energy, we're having a good impact on the environment. So when you're looking to do energy efficiency, a lot of people jump right away and they're like, we should replace our windows, or let's get solar panels. But dollar for dollar, this pyramid shows where you get the most bang for your buck. That if you start at the bottom of the pyramid and work your way up, dollar for dollar, you'll get more payback for what you invest. And you can see it right away. The second tier is low or no cost. And that's about changing your behavior. It doesn't cost anything except for some effort. Then you go all the way up to the top. And like I said, it's solar and wind generation. And there's all that stuff in the model in the middle. So this kind of gives you a roadmap to start with. You should start at the bottom and work your way up. Changing light bulbs is a little easier than air sealing, is a little easier than replacing your appliances, and you'll get better payback right away. So it kind of reinforces itself if you start at the bottom of the pyramid. So drafts, I mentioned this a moment ago, can cause a lot of discomfort. If you add up all of the different leaks and creaks and cracks in your house, drafts around doors, windows, outlets, you're looking at homes in the area can have like a hole, like a 2 by 2 foot hole in the side of your wall that adds up all those little pieces. So reducing those drafts can increase comfort, but you've got to go to each of those little cracks and find them where they add up. And so as you're sealing up your house, you'll see a gradual increase as you fill those different gaps and cracks. This also helps with humidity. It keeps the expensive air in your house and the cheap air out of your house. And it's really the first step you should do. So if you're thinking of insulation or duct sealing, you're thinking about replacing your windows or adding some sort of appliance, you should really do air sealing first because it is the cheapest place to start, and you'll see dramatic impact without having to upgrade those other systems. So the point about increasing value of your home I mentioned earlier, there have been a few studies in California, one done by Greenworks Realty. There's one done by Earth Advantage Institute in the last 10 years or so, where LEED certified homes and Energy Star certified homes, so these are rating labels, cause the value of a house to increase between 6 and 30%. And it just really depended on the house and the market because, all real estate is local and location, location, location. But there are studies that show that energy efficiency measures and improvements in your home can increase the value of your house. So you get some value there, but then you also get the value of the savings every single month. So it's kind of like a twofer. So this is the last piece I talked about moisture in your home. Moisture leads to mold and contamination because if stuff in your house gets wet, it starts to rot, the mold starts to eat it, or that particular material will start off-gassing or deteriorating in a way that's unhealthy for you and the people that live in your home. So by increasing the air tightness of your home, you keep that water out. It helps the systems in your house manage the water that's there. And I'll talk about this more near the end, but things like bathroom fans, air conditioners, dehumidifiers, these things help manage the air in your home and keeping it from getting too wet that causes these other moisture problems, excuse me. And then finally, the environmental cost. So energy that we use in our house, amazingly, from the power plant to getting to our house, you're using about 1 unit of energy for every 3 unit of energy it took to produce it. So if you're using a kilowatt hour, it really took like 3 kilowatt hours worth of energy to produce it and then transmit it to your home. Some of the losses are from transmission, like the electricity going over the wire, but a lot of the energy loss is coming from burning fossil fuels. And that when you burn them, we get some electricity out of that heat that's generated, but a lot of that heat energy is just lost. So it's pretty cool. If you save 1 kilowatt hour at your house, you can turn this around and it's a positive thing. That means you're really saving 3 kilowatts worth of fuel that it has to get burned. So, I mean, they don't use kilowatts, they use a different unit of measurement, but that's the idea, is that like 3-to-1 bonus for saving energy at the end at the home or business than at the beginning. And then finally, we're going to talk a lot about sealing homes and making sure that they're airtight. And when you do that, you're also sealing in all the stuff that's in there. So if you have combustion appliances like gas stoves, gas water heaters, some people have gas furnaces or gas space heaters. When you are sealing that in and you're burning fossil fuels, one of the potential off gases of those fossil fuels is carbon monoxide, which is odorless, tasteless, and incredibly dangerous because it can kill you. So you need to have a carbon monoxide detector. And a lot of times in these kinds of situations, it makes more sense just to hire a professional because they'll test for that. Certified energy raters will test to see how tight the airspace is, if there's enough airflow for the combustion appliances, and also that the combustion appliances are working at their optimum so that they're not off-gassing carbon monoxide, so they're not backdrafting. So a lot of times a professional can help resolve these things, but keep them in mind as you're doing this work, that it's important to be energy efficient, but it's also important to be safe in your own home. A house works together. The systems affect each other in positive ways and in negative ways. And when houses are built initially, often those houses are considered as one unit together from the builder's perspective and the architect. When you live in it, you're only going to replace or repair one piece at a time. So don't forget that they all work together, that the lighting in your wall, if you're using incandescent lights, is generating a lot of heat. That might be fine in January, but in July, when it's hot, that heat is coming into the space and affecting the air of what's going on in the space. And I've mentioned this already, not to harp on it too much, but if you've got a lot of moisture issues in your house, like say your bathroom fan's not working, or say you don't have a good air sealant between your basement and your main floor, you might have a lot of water vapor getting into the house, which can affect your indoor air quality. So each of those things affect each other. I think the one that I always forget about which is funny because, you know, I do this for a living. But one I always forget about is appliances, that a dryer is pushing air out of your house pretty quickly. So people will put dryers in closets and there's no way for air to get in. It'll create this vacuum effect. It'll start sucking in outside air through like basement walls and stuff. So managing where your dryer is, managing where these fans are, managing when they're on and when they're off and what else is going on in your house can have an impact on what's going on with air quality and what's going on in your house. Now, I'm going to touch on this real quick. The difference between efficiency and conservation. Efficiency means that we're getting similar services. Getting similar services for less cost of energy. But if we're conserving, it means we're not using energy at all. So a lot of times conservation is like when you're changing a behavior, you're just not using that energy at all. Say you're just turning off the lights when you leave the room, or you're adjusting the thermostat a few degrees toward the outside temperature. That's conservation. But efficiency is you still have a bathroom fan, but it's an Energy Star bathroom fan, or you still have your heat running in your house, but you've got this insulation. And so you're using less of that energy to heat your house. This is the general average way that homes use energy in the Southeast. And I want you to look right away at the first one and the fourth one from the left, heating and air conditioning. If you add those two up, you're looking at, let's see, 42% of your energy is going towards conditioning the air in your space. So that's why we talk about air sealing so much. But the next one is appliances. And this one, I think people forget, like, if you get a new fridge, but you save your old fridge and put it in the garage, do you really need that second fridge? Because that second fridge is old, and old fridges, if you have a fridge that's 15 or 20 years old, are exceptionally more expensive to run than new fridges, up to 2 or 4 times as expensive to run, which can really add up. So those large appliances do add up. The solution there is the Energy Star appliances. The next one here is hot water. So a water heater uses lots of energy. There's some ways I'll talk about mitigating that, like setting it to the right temperature, and there's some other technology things you can do. And then finally, the plug-in devices and lighting. This is where people can make a big difference for cheap. You unplug stuff when you're not using it, which I struggle with sometimes personally, but we all have our struggles. And then lighting. LED lights have become amazing. I remember 20 years ago really harping on everybody needs compact fluorescent lights. CFL's terrible technology. Not really a fan. It's got mercury in it. It kind of has a weird color, but the LED lights are fantastic technology. And so we'll talk more about that. So there's basic principles we're going to be talking about, and I've kind of touched on these individually, but here kind of bring it all together, is setting your thermostat at a temperature that is closer to the outside temperature, and then adjusting it and seeing how it feels to try to get the most efficient temperature where you're both comfortable and you're not overdoing it. You want to control that expensive air, keep it in your house. We're going to talk about preventing heat loss or gain. This is things like reflective tiles on your roof or insulation in your attic. You want technologies that are efficient. That's like your appliances. You got to keep your items maintained. We'll get to that at the very end, cleaning filters and furnaces and dryers, that kind of thing. And then, of course, your own actions, which can have a huge impact how you're operating the space and what you turn on and off, and when you use it can make a big difference on your efficiency. So number one, heating and cooling. So you probably all have, if you have central heating or central air, something like that box on the left with the door open. That's an air handler inside a house, and probably the furnace is inside that little box. Whether it's gas powered or electric powered, that box kind of looks the same. The difference is if it's electric, it's got a big box on the wall, like that gray box right there on the left. The gas ones have one of those because they have to have an igniter, might be a little smaller, but they also have a flue. So they've got a chimney that takes the waste gas, so carbon dioxide, water vapor, sometimes carbon monoxide, if it's not working quite right, out of your house. And that's how you can tell if it's a gas furnace. It's got a little flue, a little chimney on the top. More and more, we're seeing installation, and you should consider this if you're considering an outside unit, a heat pump instead of an air conditioning compressor. And the heat pump works even to heat your house. It just moves the heat from into your house instead of out of your house. So it kind of reverses. It's an air conditioner that can kind of go back and forth. When it's hot out, it can take the hot air from your house outside. And when it's cool outside, it can take the cooler air outside and actually take the heat out of it and bring it into your house. So these heat pump cold weather compressors are pretty neat because they can go both directions and they're quite efficient. They're more efficient than like an electric and even sometimes a gas fueled furnace. If you hear banging or whistling or it's not working right, you should call a professional. Have them come fix it. Managing your thermostat is a very personal thing. If you think about the things in your lives that are small luxuries, like a latte or spending time at a concert and having a beer, the temperature in your house, I feel, at least for me, goes in that same category. I don't want to get home and be miserable. I don't want it to be freezing cold. I also don't want it to be blazing hot. So managing your thermostat is this luxury in our lives that we can manage both to be comfortable, but also to save money and save energy. And there's kind of a trick to it. You want to set your thermostat as close to the outdoor temperature as possible. And so, but also while being comfortable. And so what you should do, here's a trick, at least this is the way that I did it with my wife, is we took our thermostat where we normally set it in the summer, which was about 672 or 73. And every day we would change it a degree hotter. So we would go 74 and then we'd wait a day and see how it felt. And then we'd go 75. And if it feels comfortable at that 1 degree higher, you go up a degree and then wait a day and go up. And when you get to a point when you're going to adjust the thermostat, and we set a calendar reminder or like a timer so we'd remember to look at it. When you get to that day where you're like, oh man, it was hot today, or you look at the thermostat and you've adjusted it because it was hot, you know that's just a little bit too hot, and then come back down a degree. And so that's how you figure out how close it is to be both comfortable, a comfortable temperature, but also a more affordable temperature. Every degree you go closer to the outside temperature can be up to 3% of energy savings a month. So say you have it set at like 62 because you're like, I want it blazing cold in here, and you can get it all the way up to 72 or 74. That can be like 20 or 30% of your energy bill, and you'll get the same service out of the equipment. You're feeling cooler in your house and comfortable. Also, there's some really neat ones here, like this Ecobee. There's also like Nest thermostats where you can do it on your phone. So you can also, if you're not at the house, change it. I'll say your partner is at the house and you change it. It's kind of fun to see what happens if they even notice and come home later. Were you messing with thermostat on your phone? So yeah, tread lightly, my friends. So ways that you can find whether you have gaps and cracks in your house is by looking around for gaps at where sunlight comes through. So like on this photo on the left, the door has sunlight coming through on the bottom. That's a gap you should probably seal. You can also use a candle flame or incense or a match, and you can hold it up around doors and windows, or gaps in molding, trim around windows, gaps around plumbing fixture pipes, which I'll show a photo in a bit. You can see them when the sunlight's coming in. You can see the gap like on the right where there's that frame of the window and there's a gap, or you can use something that indicates that there's a draft moving air around that shouldn't be moving. And usually that's heat moves. The hot air moves to where the cold air is. So if it's wintertime, the hot air will be heading out of the house. And if it's summertime, the hot air will try to come into the house. Also, if it's windy outside, that pressure on the house will help push air in and out of your house. But you can caulk these or use or you can use caulking or weather stripping on the door, or places where you can't see, you can use great stuff, a gap filler, spray foam. So here's some places you should look. They're out of sight that you might not think about of where you could fill gaps up. On the left here, this is a bathtub or a sink, and you can see there's a gap there underneath it that goes to another space, maybe a crawl space or into a cavity in the wall, taking some foam board, filling that up. The second one's my favorite, but it's kind of dark. When electricians or plumbers, God bless them, are installing things, a lot of times they'll cut a big hole. So say they've got a 2-inch pipe, they'll cut a 3-inch hole because it's easy. You make one cut, you put the pipe in, you're good. Well, if you're living in the space, that creates a place for air to go back and forth. And so sealing that up with some caulk or some great stuff is really helpful. And a lot of times professionals will use, it says FLIR, FLIR. They'll use an infrared camera, like the one you see on the right. And that tells them where there's cold areas or warm areas, that the air is coming through and affecting the temperature, or where there might not be enough insulation. So you could, so I just explained a lot of ways that you could seal up your house for gaps and cracks. There's like two strategies here. One is you can seal up your whole house. Like you can go from the attic to the crawl space and just seal it all, and like treat that as like conditioned space. There's advantages to that. There's also disadvantage to that. The other thing you can do is just air seal the space that you're living in. So seal off the attic or the crawl space away from the main floors of where you're living. So it really depends on the house. And I think that's one of the big takeaways here is it depends. Like getting a professional in there to look at it, having someone talk to you on the phone, like with a home energy chat, helping getting additional expertise about what the best strategy is for your house is very important, because if you start working down one path, sealing the whole house, and then you try to switch to the other path, just sealing the living space, it changes the equipment that you need and the strategies that you're doing. So you want to stick with one strategy or the other. Here's some examples of sealing air leaks. So on the left is a door with some weather stripping. It's that black strip that's right next to the door. And it creates the weight of the door creates a seal against the weather stripping when it closes, and that's what keeps the air seal. On the bottom, it's not weather stripping. It's called a door sweep. You can either put it on the back of the door, or there's some that slide along the bottom, and they have little fins on them that are made of rubber, and it pushes up against the door frame or the door jamb and creates a weather seal on those gaps and cracks that are at the bottom of the door. And then on the right, that's a picture of the attic floor, or as you know, the other side of your ceiling. So the technician there has pulled back all of the insulation. You can see that at the top of the picture, so that the attic floor is exposed. And that electrical box is probably for a ceiling fan or a light fixture. So you can see there's two of them. The other one probably goes down into the wall. Depending on the size of the hole, what's going on with heat, you use different products. And in this case, they use caulk for the electrical box, for the junction box, and they use spray foam for the hole that went through where the wires go. And that just stops the air from flowing back and forth between the attic and your house. I'm going to mention this in a minute, but you'll notice you want to do the insulation second. You're going to want to do the air sealing first and the insulation second. I mentioned this at the beginning about health and safety, but here's a hot tip. If you have combustion appliances within your living space, so water heaters, stoves, dryers, or there's gas dryers, getting a low-level carbon monoxide detector could be super helpful, so that you can know if there's a low-level leak and not just one that triggers the higher-level alarms near that ceiling. So carbon monoxide detectors are great. Anything is better than nothing. But if you get one of these ones, it could be worthwhile, these low-level carbon monoxide detectors for your health. If you have any suspicion that there's backdrafting, that one of your appliances is not working properly, you should get someone to come look at it right away, because this is incredibly hazardous, having carbon monoxide in your house. So back to air sealing, as far as like other things that could be contaminants or things that could be bad for your health. Peeling paint. If your house was built before 1978, when lead paint was banned, you probably have lead paint in your house, and it's either still there and chipping away, or it could be underneath some new paint or different layers of paint. When you start doing air sealing and stuff, that lead-based paint, you'll be nearby it, touching it. That could be dangerous for you and your family. Definitely get it mitigated. There's professionals that do this, and they either remove it or encapsulate it, and it's definitely recommended, because lead has long-term, lifelong effects. And then on the right is evidence of moisture. You can actually see two different kinds of evidence of moisture. You can see the discoloration on the wood subfloor above those cobwebs. Those are like rafters or beams that are holding the floor up. And you can see some growth, not just wetness, but growth. And then on the bottom part, you can see spores, mold spores. That you don't want mold in your house. If you see that, you should definitely deal with the source of the moisture that's causing the mold, but also you should get the mold itself mitigated, and there's professionals that can do this as well. So radon is a dangerous gas that comes from the ground, and a lot of houses in the United States have radon gas in them. I personally am quite concerned about radon. We think that my grandparents might have died from radon poisoning after decades and decades. So if you've lived in your house for a long time or you're buying a new house, either way, you should get a radon test. There are relatively cheap home radon tests that can tell you if you need to do something that's more professional. And I just paid to have radon remediation at my house, and it was like $1,000 or $800. I forget. It was like way cheaper than I expected. They basically dig a little hole under the foundation, put a fan in and a pipe all the way up to the top of the house, and they have and the fan just blows the radon out of your house before it can even get into it. So I'm not a radon professional. I'm not an installer, but I was pleasantly surprised with how affordable mitigation was. So please get a radon test kit. Please make sure that your house is safe for you and your family. If you do more air sealing and you don't do this, that's more radon that's staying in your house. It's a radioactive chemical that causes long-term damage to your body. So be careful. You might need a vapor barrier. Professionals will be able to tell you this more, but radon is definitely a concern, especially if you're air sealing your house more. Oh, the bathroom fan. I had a teacher once for one of my energy classes. So I don't know if I properly introduced myself. I have an energy certification with Building Performance Institute, and I had to go to some classes for that. And one of the continuing ed classes was this lovely woman. She was quite the character at Louisiana State University. I won't say her name, so keep her privacy. But she's retiring soon. Anyway, she's in the front of the room. There's like 40 contractors in the room, and she goes, when I get out of the shower and my body is dripping and naked, I don't want the bathroom fan on. And everyone's just like, what is this lady talking about? And what she was getting at, that she continued and taught a very great class about moisture control in bathrooms, is that you want the bathroom fan on the right amount of time. You want the bathroom fan on to get all that humidity out of your house, and you want to vent it out properly. And then when it's done, you want to turn the bathroom fan off, because you don't want that expensive air going outside. And also, if it's wintertime, it'll get cold, right? So you just want the bathroom fan on just long enough to get that humidity out, and then you want it to stop. But you also want a bathroom fan because you don't want that humidity in there either. So it's definitely a balance between the two. So when you're done doing the air sealing, remember you want to air seal that ceiling floor before you do anything else. This is actually two pictures. One is the attic in the top and the crawl space, or the basement in the bottom. Before you air seal either of those before you insulate either of those surfaces, you want to air seal it. So don't forget, air seal first, insulation second. But insulation is also really important. It's like a blanket that you lay across the surface of your ceiling to reduce thermal transfer. And you can see on the picture on the right, that's actually an attic hatch door where there is no insulation, and it makes a really big difference, the temperature of the surrounding ceiling versus the temperature of that attic door. So once you're done air sealing, you can put insulation in. There's lots of different kinds of insulations. There's the pink stuff and the yellow stuff, which are basically the same thing, which is fiberglass bat. And they actually have blown-in fiberglass now too. You can use that. The stuff in this picture is called cellulose. It's loose fill cellulose. It's basically ground up paper that's got a bunch of flame retardant on it. It's like 15% flame retardant so that it doesn't catch on fire, because you don't want that, of course. But it's incredibly versatile. You can put this stuff in a lot of places, like inside your walls. You can pack it. You can leave it loose fill. There's lots of options with it. And the thing about this stuff is that you can put it in what's already there. So if you already have the pink stuff, you already have something in your attic, instead of having to tear it out, you can put this stuff just right on top of it. And so it takes a lot. It takes enough so that your rafters won't be showing after it's been installed there. So plan accordingly. But insulation is a great way to reduce heat transfer across those solid barriers, as opposed to the air sealing piece that reduces the transfer of heat through the wall or through the ceiling. And then same thing in the basement. Some stuff about insulation that I don't know if it's in the next slide. Let's find out. Okay, well, some stuff about insulation. If you have the pink stuff or the yellow stuff, if there's any kind of air leaking, or there's any kind of issue with your furnace in the furnace area, or there's any kind of moisture issues, your insulation, if it's the pink or yellow stuff, will tell you. If you look at your insulation and it's dirty, it means there's either an air leak, and that's dirt collecting on it out of the air, like an air filter, or there's some sort of water issue because of mold growing on it. Or with the furnace example, maybe it's soot. So if you see discoloration in your insulation, it could be an indication of other problems, and you should definitely consult a professional. Now, I talked about adding insulation above the rafters. That's what we see here. In this area, you want an R value up to R49, which is a lot. I think, I'm not quite sure, it depends on the product, but it can be like 15 or 18 inches of this stuff. And your rafters are probably 8 to 12 inches. So it's definitely going to go above those. If you open a wall cavity, it says add wall insulation for exterior walls. You probably don't need insulation on your interior walls. Insulation is to keep heat from transferring, and generally your interior living space is the same temperature as other parts of your interior living spaces. I mean, save like the garage or the crawl space or the attic, but those aren't really living spaces, right? So you could put insulation against walls that touch those areas. And then that on the right is, I think that's supposed to be an attic hatch. Insulating attic hatches is an interesting endeavor. I've done it a couple of times. There's also little attic tents you can get. But yeah, definitely don't forget the attic hatch. That amount of area, like an attic hatch size area without insulation, reduces the insulation and the effectiveness across the rest of your attic a significant percentage. I'm forgetting it off the top of my head, but it's like in the 20% range, just having that much insulation missing. So having it be continuous is incredibly important. And again, you should consult a professional. I did this once myself, where I blew in the insulation and I regretted it terribly, not because I messed it up, but because it was very uncomfortable. I didn't really want to be in my attic for 12 hours blowing this stuff in with Aunt Tina downstairs with the baler loading it up with the insulation. So definitely consider what you're willing to do yourself and what you want to hire a professional for, both in terms of your expertise and the cost. So the HVAC system moves air through ducts. If you have a central system, here's what it looks like. This is 2 blower units. So there's a blower unit in the attic where it says supply and return at the top. And then there's also a blower unit in the bottom. And both of those probably have furnaces attached to them. And sometimes they'll have an air compressor or a heat pump outside attached to them to help manage the temperature. So yeah, it sucks air in from the main space. It's called the return, and it pushes it back out to the main space in the supply in a loop. When you are using central air, the pressure inside your central air system is high enough that if there's any leaks, they can be dramatic. Like sealing up your ductwork can be a huge way to improve the comfort and the efficiency of your system. There's a bunch of letters on this diagram that show where like the issues can be. Basically, you're looking at leaks. A lot of these are just noting leaks. Letter C is there's a furniture on top of the return, so that reduces the efficiency because it blocks it. Same thing with G. It's a kink in the line. You want those ducts to be as straight as possible and have nice rounding curves, because air turbulence around tight kinks actually really reduces its ability to move the air. And then finally, I think that's all of them on the list. The rest are just leaks. Oh, on E, letter E is fallen insulation. So these ducts are generally insulated, and so insulation can come off over time or can be broken free during installation. So make sure that you double check a contractor's work. Here's 2 examples. There's that furniture on the left blocking the floor vent, and then on the right, that is a duct that's just open to the unconditioned space. That's not just an issue with air efficiency and its ability to heat and cool your house. It's also an issue with water vapor, blowing all of that conditioned air into unconditioned space can cause water issues. So definitely get those things taken care of. I mentioned these also before. The one on the left is a kink in the ductwork that will really reduce flow. You want to reduce those as much as possible. That strapping is super cheap. I mean, there's metal strapping there, but you can get nylon strapping, like a big old roll of it for like $5. Well, I don't know anymore with supply chain stuff. Maybe it's like $8, but it's well worth it because what you would do in this instance, or what a contractor should do, is you would take out the strap that's there. You would lower the strap, and then if there's extra duct work on either end, you would cut it so that you could make a more straighter duct. And then on the right, that thing is just a part. That is a torn, broken piece of duct. So getting that replaced would clearly help getting the air that's coming out of that duct on the bottom and get it into the top. This is more examples of issues with ductwork. As you can see, ductwork is very important. You can increase the efficiency of it 20 to 25% because just from sealing up leaks. This is where two different pieces come together. On the left, the top is a plenum and the bottom is a register, is a duct. And there's like a little piece in there, a little metal piece that connects them, and you can see the holes there. So you can actually seal those up. You can get either heat rated great stuff foam or expanding foam, or you can get heat rated caulk and seal that up to seal it, or use some mastic, seal it up nicely. If you have a buddy, you can shine light into the register, and you get on the other side and you can actually see where the light comes through. So that's a good trick. And then the right, those are completely uninsulated ducts. That would work if the whole space was all one space, but if you have your crawl space in your attic separate from your main space, that's a major problem. You got to seal that up. So you can use mastic or tape to seal joints. Tape is not as good. It doesn't last as long. Mastic is like that gluey stuff you can see on the box in this picture. The boxes are called plenums. This is some sort of plenum, whether it's the air going out or the air going back. It's got a different name, the supply plenum or the return plenum. But you can see it's all sealed up here. And then actually, once they put the ductwork in, they put insulation in for the attic and actually just put it on top of the ductwork, which is fine. But the silvery stuff on the outside, that's the insulation that comes with the ductwork itself. That's it for that one. So you should replace your air filters in your furnaces and air conditioners. This is 20 by 20. It fits into a register that hopefully you can access. It's best if they're on the walls, but sometimes they're on the ceiling. Be careful on that ladder. If there's dust in it, it gets clogged. It doesn't work as well. There's a bit of varied opinion about how often you should replace these. I'm of the opinion more is better. So once a month, I've got a timer that I set, and every month I go and replace these things, and I vacuum the register if it's dusty and make sure it's nice and clear. There are anti-allergen ones and some other more expensive ones that say they last for 90 days. Take that with a grain of salt. If it's clogged, if it's dirty, you should swap it out. You'll save enough money that it'll be worth it, and it actually helps the life of your air handler for your furnace or your air conditioner. So if you own your house, you should definitely do this. If you're a renter, it'll help you with your energy bills. So it's kind of a win-win either way. So definitely replace these on a regular basis. If you don't have an in-wall or ceiling central air return vent, like on the right, and you have window units, those also have filters. These are usually washable, just spray them off in the sink. And then in the furnace, often there's a filter. Sometimes they're smaller actually than these wall filters. And so there'll be different kinds of filters in different places, but make sure you check them regularly, check for clogs, set a reminder on your calendar. So if we're ever going to get to 100% renewable energy, we need to get away from fossil fuels. And I'm not going to talk about stoves. Stoves are a hard one for people to give up, but something that's easy to give up is a natural gas heater. Switching from a natural gas heater to a heat pump, you can see energy savings, and also you could help us green the grid and become 100% renewable energy by getting fossil fuel burning appliances out of your house. If it's in your living space, it's also probably healthier for you, because if it's not working right, which eventually things break, you get issues with carbon monoxide, issues with carbon dioxide and the gases coming from these things into your house. So switching to a heat pump can really help on multiple levels. However, never say never. Just like lawyers and accountants in energy efficiency, It also depends. So it really depends on your house. The truth is, if you need additional advice, you should have someone come in and check out what's going on in your house. All the stuff we talked about before, all that air sealing and stuff really helps your house. And so if anyone's installing a new HVAC system in your house, you should have them do a manual J. It's actually a test of how much heating and cooling you need, what kind of blower unit you need. And if you've done that other stuff first, you could actually end up saving money by buying a smaller system. So there you go. When you're choosing HVAC, choose efficient models. I love this tip. So I hail from Louisiana. And so we would close our shades. We would get like blackout shades, my wife and I. Close your shades on the south side of your house if you want it to stay cooler, because then the sun doesn't heat up your house, especially during the day if you're working and you're gone. In North Carolina, it goes both ways. In the summer, you probably want to close these things to keep your house cooler, especially when you're not there, to help your AC not have to work so hard. But in the wintertime, open it. Open your shades during the daytime. Let the sun in, because that heat can help heat your home, and that is free heat. Ceiling fans, they heat and cool people, not rooms. So when you leave the room, turn the fan off. It's not doing you any good. But if you're in the room, turn it on. And there's a little switch on the side. And in the summertime, push the switch down, and it makes the air go down. And in the wintertime, push the switch up, and it makes the air go up. And so it can help you cool in the summer, but it can also help you keep comfortable and warm in the winter. Hot water. So hot water uses a lot of energy in your house. This is how a water heater works. Cool water comes in, it gets heated up with gas or with electricity, and then it goes to other areas of your house for distribution. The first thing you can do to save on water heat is you set your water heater to 120 degrees-ish. So on this particular knob, it's the one with a little arrow, and then each of those letters is a little hotter. If you go away, you can put it on very low, like on vacation, and save yourself some money. I don't recommend keeping it that low because I don't want to shower that cold myself. But you can even get a little thermometer and test like how hot your water is at the faucet. And if it's more than 120, you should turn that dial down, because you don't really need it more than 120. This is also a scalding issue. If you keep it at 120 and you're a landlord, then it's a good liability measure, because your tenants won't burn themselves at 120 degrees. It's hot. It's kind of uncomfortably hot, but you won't get burns from it. Whereas if you get hotter, you can, and that's a major health and safety issue. And then finally, you've got the water heat where the pipe comes in. So this is actually new to me. It's kind of exciting. Water circulation coming from the cold water pipe and looping back up into the hot water pipe needs to be inhibited so that they don't mix together and reduce your water heater's efficiency. Now, new water heaters are built with insulation in them, but old ones might need an extra water heater blanket. And this middle picture is actually a manual loop that they added this in there, but now they've got actually little attachments that you can get for your water heater. And then, of course, modern water heaters are more efficient. On the one on the left is a heat pump water heater. They use electricity, like the heat pump is like a air conditioner heat pump that helps move heat into the water from the air around it. And then on the right is an on-demand inline water heater. When you're choosing one, definitely make sure that you're looking that it's energy efficient, that it's Energy Star. You can try a heat pump water heater or a solar thermal water heater to go even further. But saving water on your water heat could have a big impact if you recall that diagram from the beginning of the presentation. And then the reason we hawk water faucet aerators and shower aerators is because they reduce the amount of hot water that you're using. So you can take shorter showers, but you can also change your fixtures. And if you get one of those handheld ones, I don't see a difference. And my wife hasn't complained yet about what's going on with the water in our shower. Still plenty to get it done. And then this is a picture of one that's in a sink faucet. So you can do one in your kitchen sink, and they have really cool ones that kind of have little adjustments and move and stuff. And then this is one on a bathroom sink, but it makes it more efficient so that the water coming out is fewer gallons per minute. Generally, shower heads are 1.5 gallons a minute, and faucet aerators are a gallon, sometimes less, like 0.7 or 0.5. But look for this WaterSense logo to see that you're getting the right thing. So here's the LEDs I was talking about before. We put this later on because this is kind of low-hanging fruit. Changing light bulbs is pretty simple, but you can actually request free ones, or buy them at a local hardware store. But the one on the left there is an incandescent bulb, one of the old style bulbs. Those take 90% of the energy they use and convert it to heat. Well, you don't really need a heater. In fact, the Easy Bake Oven, if you remember those, they used an incandescent light to make the brownies as a heating element for a stove. So they can get like 400, 500, 600 degrees. We don't need that heat. You're trying to buy light. So choose an LED. There's lots of different colors and technologies to make it work for the proper application. And they're incredibly affordable, if not free. So changing light bulbs is super easy and can save you a ton of money. The one on the left costs about 7 times as much to operate. One light bulb, maybe that's not a big deal, but I got like 20 or 40 at my house, and that really adds up. So definitely changing light bulbs can make a big difference, and it's very simple. And then energy from appliances. One of the biggest things here is that when you're changing appliances out, you should get Energy Star appliances. They have lots of different pieces that go into that, including durability and efficacy, but also standby mode being affordable, or different technologies that make them more energy efficient than regular appliances. Remember, there's behavioral things here too. Just if you change your behavior, you can make a difference, like running full loads of laundry, full loads of dishes, and then you could even hang your laundry instead of putting it in the dryer. That'll save a bunch of money. Or if you have a dishwasher, running your dishwasher and then opening it instead of choosing the heating cycle to dry the dishes. So there are appliances you can get that are more efficient, but then also how you use them makes a difference for how much energy you're using. And then shutting devices off. I'm really bad at this. So I have one of these things on the right because I'm lazy. It's this one actually, yeah, this is a smart thermostat, or sorry, a smart power strip. And you can choose to plug in things that you need in the always on one, like your Wi-Fi router or things like medical equipment. But then you can put like things that turn on and off in this master switch on the top left, or sorry, the very top middle. So the master switch is, you would put in like a computer monitor or a TV, and then power save ones get turned off and turned off automatically when that master switch gets turned on and off. So your Xbox, your DVD player, your VCR that's flashing 12, you put those in the power save spots, and then when the master switch turns off, it completely cuts power to them, so they don't flash 12 at you all the time. I might be aging myself with that joke, but yeah, the VCR that used to flash 12, that was because on standby mode, wasting energy. It's called vampire energy that's just sitting there sucking it for no reason. So these smart power strips help with lazy people like me make sure that we're not using these things, we're not keeping these things plugged in. It physically turns off the energy to these appliances until the master switch is turned on. I mentioned this before, air drying is going to be cheaper and more energy efficient than using heated drying. And then this is all stuff you can do. And if you're a tenant, these are great because you don't have to change any appliances. You don't have to add any insulation. These are things that you can do right away to save energy, but still get the same services out of what you're doing. This is the last thing really with appliances in your house. If the stuff that you're using isn't clean, it's probably using more energy to do it. So in the example on the right, a dryer, if you're not cleaning the lint dryer, it's kind of slowing things down. And I talked about it before with the air conditioner filter and the furnace filter. But then also other parts can get clogged if they're not working right. Like that middle picture is the outflow from the dryer at the side of the house. So you need to clear that out. And then on the left, same thing, but on the inside of your house, maybe it's not blowing all the way out. Well, that can be a huge issue with vapor. Like there's a lot of wet air coming out of that dryer. So keeping things clean, keeping that dryer flap free of debris, emptying the dryer of lint every single load, those things will actually help you a lot with your energy. So definitely take a look at that. This is a sample energy bill. As you can see, throughout the year, energy bills change. In the shoulder seasons, like if you think of this as head and shoulders, the shoulder seasons are March to May, you have a lower bill. And then from May to October, you have a higher bill. and it kind of flattens out a little bit and then bumps back up in December, January, and February. And what that is it's related really closely to what's happening with your HVAC system. To heat and cool your house takes the most amount of energy, and so you're going to see the most amount of energy use and energy bills during those times. Once again, the pyramid of energy conservation. Y'all can reference this in this video, or I can email everyone after the presentation, and you can just have this as a quick guide to the things that you should do first. And then if you want to do solar, we have a solar program here for low-income folks. But then if you want to do it yourself, there's a federal income tax credit that's slowly sunsetting out, 26% this year and 22% next year. This is a tax credit that comes off of your tax liabilities. So if you're not paying any taxes already, this doesn't really help. But if you are, it's something. You can get a discount on your solar panels with this federal tax credit. The Duke Energy Solar Rebate is a lottery system. There's another one coming up. I cannot recall. It's in the next few months, but they will pay a certain amount based on how big your system is for a house, up to $4,000 to give you a rebate to help you install solar. And then if you're choosing a solar installer, use a local solar, because money these days local. It's good for all of us. It's good for the economy, and it's good for the environment. It's good for job training. It's good for our people. So if you're using a solar installer, use a local solar installer. If you'd like to get more involved, you can go check out our website, or you can give us an email or a shout. You can give us a call. We're happy to answer any questions you have or set up individual sessions. And with that, that's our home energy chat for the month of June. Please follow up with us in the future. Reach out, be in touch. Thank you so much, and goodbye.